Hi, and welcome to Chapter 7 Experiential Family Therapy. Hopefully, you have read the chapter by now and also watched some of the demonstration videos showing experiential family therapist in action. Experiential family therapy was unique because it was one of the first schools of family therapy that looked at the therapy as an emotional encounter. It was more of the humanistic branch of psychology and it focused on the here and now experience. We didn't go back into memories or things that had happened necessarily, but what was going on now and in the therapy session. How was what was being said and done affecting the different family members? There was a lot of focus on the emotional experience, and that's one way you can remember it. It's all about the experience. And the emphasis was on individuals and their different emotions. Two of the leading developers of family therapy were Carl Whitaker and Virginia Satir. If you ever have a chance to watch a video of Whitaker working with a family, I think you'll find it very entertaining as well as insightful. Carl Whitaker started out originally as an OBGYN and a psychiatrist, and he was one of the first to conduct therapy with families. He was really kind of known as a maverick, a little bit eccentric. He would say some very outrageous things at times, but through all of that, he continued to be admired and have good luck working with families. Virginia Satir was associated with the MRI group from 1959 to 1966. We had studied them a couple of chapters ago. Her style was highly nurturing, empathetic, and genuine. She used a lot of touching, going along with that nurturing, and then also the sculpting, which you should have seen examples in the video of moving the family and actually putting them into positions that kind of matched how they were seen in the family or how their role was in the family. And she really stressed the importance of good communication among family members. When we talk about some of the basic ideas behind experiential family therapy, some of the main ideas are that family difficulties and problems are caused by emotional suppression. And so when we're looking at how the family works together, we're looking at problems and difficulties developing when parents regulate and control their children's feelings, or maybe it was an unspoken thing, but children felt for some reason that they needed to suppress or blunt their own emotional experience. Um, the idea is that dysfunctional families are not tolerant of emotions. And so there was not a lot of vulnerability and fears and anxieties or honest emotions being shared within the family. And so the idea was to try to change families by helping them get in touch with their emotions. What were their hopes and the desires, their fears and their anxieties, so that they could experience true authenticity. Now, experiential family therapy grew out of existential psychology. Basically, it was developed in response to some of the perceived limitations in psychoanalysis and behaviorism. There was an emphasis on freedom and the immediacy of the experience. Again, if you get a chance to watch Carl Whitaker in action, you'll see he was very free to say whatever, even if it maybe would offend the person, but he was gauging their reaction, and they were definitely having an experience as they went through therapy with him. And so, therefore, the individual experience was valued over the family structure. So, if there was someone whose true needs and feelings were being suppressed because the family wasn't able to handle it, then through therapy, we would begin to pull that person out and have them have an authentic experience, even if it messed up the family structure. So the needs of the family were not put first, they followed on the heels of individual enhancement. The techniques of experiential family therapy are aimed at promoting communication and interaction because, again, if feelings have been hidden or faked or suppressed, then to get to those, we would need to have new ways of communicating and interacting, opening up the individual to new experiences because if you change one part of the family, then you're going to change the whole family. Liberate the affect and impulses to promote individual growth and family cohesion because even though it may be painful, in the end, an honest family is going to be a closer, more cohesive family. And the only exception to this is when we talk about emotionally focused couples therapy, and we're not going to deal with that a lot in this chapter. Now, when we look at normal family development, healthy families support individual growth in family members. We would expect that, each person has their own personality, their own strengths and weaknesses, their own experiences, and how they're going to handle those. And so, in that safe environment, family members are secure and honest about their feelings, and they feel free to express them. So, we have a pretty healthy, authentic, family dynamic there. But in dysfunctional families, there's a resistance to awareness. Don't really um, get in tune with what's going on. We limit emotional expressiveness. And so when they come into experiential family therapy, we would be looking for that open, spontaneous experiencing, and that would help that family begin to function in a more healthy manner. Now, as you can imagine, it would be very uncomfortable for that family, especially at first. So, there may be some that this isn't their style and they wouldn't continue in therapy, or they would have to, come to trust the therapist before they would allow themselves to fully engage in the practice of the therapy. Now, problems develop when feelings are suppressed or impulses are denied. And when we suppress emotions, naturally that robs the family members of their flexibility and their vitality because basically we're fake, we're kind of flat, just have, one emotion that's okay. And Satir had a good term for it. She spoke of families that live in quiet desperation. There's four types of destructive communication that can smother feelings, according to Satir. And she asserts the idea that, different people assume these roles. We would have the blaming, the placating, the person who is irrelevant, or the person who is ultra reasonable, promoting inauthentic communication, which is rooted in low self esteem. So we usually see or find a family member that is willing to take on each of these roles. So, when they enter into therapy and we begin setting some goals, we're going to begin to shake up some of those roles. For example, we would promote individual and family growth through experience and emotional expression. We would also try to help family members increase personal integrity, where their feelings and their behaviors are more congruent. They are more in line with what's actually going on. And then liberating the affect and impulses of family members by enhancing growth and self awareness. Revitalizing family relationships through family members who act more like themselves and bring the family together emotionally to develop a sense of belonging and freedom. And I hope in the videos that you watched earlier, you saw how even though some of that stuff was maybe uncomfortable or seemed a little bit awkward, when they just kind of went with it and they were honest about their feelings, it really gave a lot of insight to each other about what was going on and how they each saw what was going on in the family. Now, how are we going to do assessment when a family comes in for experiential therapy? They These types of therapists are less interested in solving the problem. Remember, they're focusing more on enhancing the family function. So they're going to pay less attention to assessment than any other school of family therapy. They're going to try to avoid characterizing people, and assessment will take place informally as the therapist gets to know the family. And through the process of developing the relationships, they kind of learn what kind of people they're dealing with. Now, in some cases, like Carl Whitaker would ask each family member to describe the family and how it works. This was good because it gave him each person's viewpoint of what's going on. But that's about as formal as it's going to get. Everything else is done through experiencing things with the family. So, as the therapist joins with the family and works with them, they will seek to understand the defenses that keep people from experiencing their full range of emotions and feelings. However, you won't see them using diagnostic categories very often. Carl Whitaker really will just join with the family. He will just ask point blank questions. Well, what would have happened if you would have done this? Or why didn't you bring this person to therapy? Why are you letting that continue to happen? Questions that maybe a lot of times we ask in our head, but we would never say in public because it's not polite to be that blunt. But in the therapy session, it has proven to be very effective for him. Another part of the therapy techniques are to create personal therapeutic encounters by using the structured exercises and techniques. In the demonstration video that is posted here, you saw the therapist using the stuffed animals, where each person chose a stuffed animal that kind of represented them that morning in the family. You also saw some examples of family sculpture and placing families in roles. So there's two different groups. One group of experiential therapists uses highly structured devices: the family sculpting, the role playing, family art therapy, conjoint family drawing. They may also use Gestalt therapy techniques to promote effective expression. It could be talking to the empty chair, different things like that. The second group of experiential therapists use the force of their personalities, their personal spontaneity, and their creativity. Um, I think you have to be pretty confident in this. You have to not be afraid of people's reactions or someone getting upset with you to do this. But again, Carl Whitaker is very astute at using this, and you'll see that his personality and his spontaneity really adds a lot to his therapy. When using sculpting, the therapist asked a family member to physically arrange the family to represent the family roles, maybe the rules, or the perceptions of the family members. In the family art drawing and conjoint therapy, this would help the family to express themselves in ways that tap into emotions without them maybe necessarily realizing it. Role playing would be where we'd reenact scenes from childhood or present. And then the psychology of the observed, taking client statements to the extreme. And this would be so Whitaker. If a lady says, I can't stand my husband, then he might say, well, why don't you get rid of him or take up a boyfriend or, get another one, something like that. Um, really just to kind of catch them off guard and get them to think about what they're saying. The therapist's role in experiential family therapy is just to be a genuine person and to bring about change. You don't hide behind the professional role. Like I said, you join with the family. You must be very caring and accepting, be open and highly active, and emotionally in touch with your own experiences. And be sure and pay attention to any countertransference that may occur. You don't want to project this back on the family.